many odd calculations. So you need a simulation engine really in that, a simulation approach there. It's easier under US GAAP. I'm assuming your customers under US GAAP.
Yep, correct.
So it's easier under US GAAP, so you don't have quite as many models and quite as many problems, at the second and third stage. So we, under IAS, we have to, we've got outcome and emergence and outcome, and that's very different for different products, for different things. And again, so even if you've scored it one way, you could impair it different. So it's trying to build some consistency so people actually understand how the weakening in performance. It's a bit more obvious under US GAAP because obviously as soon as you go one cycle down, you have to put it into calculation. The problem with that then becomes how valid, if you have things like fraud and you have fraud spikes, how do you define fraud? How do you manage fraud on a credit basis? Because then do you take that out of your data set to run that for your future impairments, or do you leave it in and then only benefit when you get there? So the challenger model space we used was mainly in the scorecard and the PD and LGD price, but impairment is a big challenge as well.
Okay. So I guess let's move on to line management as well. So CLI and CLD.
Yeah.
How often did you run CLDs? Was that like a monthly process, a daily process, or did you have specific triggers that you got from either a bureau or other sources?
Yeah, so we actually we thought of it really as 4 separate teams. So and we did split the credit teams into these 4 buckets. So we had effectively existing, the credit, what people would call the credit team, did supported the business on acquisitions because they owned the scorecards, and then also did the existing customer line management, so effectively the increases. We had a separate team who did decreases, and we had a specific decrease model, so the increases could only be applied to names which hadn't been flagged as we called high-risk account management names. And high-risk account management names were a combination of factors. They were, sometimes economic, sometimes bureau, but sort of if customers were sort of applying for more credit or gaining more credit than we would have expected. Clearly, if they started missing with other people, but why would they miss with other people's payments and not miss with us? So you tended to find that missing payments was just a timing thing they were going to miss with you as well. And so, the usage of the card, did that change materially? And then, so we separated the teams so that high-risk account management, effectively, once they put a flag on it, you couldn't do any line management with it. And they had the right to change that and do that ASAP. Okay, so they ran a specific set of metrics and rules, which everyone agreed to, which was at what point do we suddenly say no, the customer's no longer available, and then within that high-risk account management process, we would decide how quickly or when we would need to. So would the customer initially just be no longer available for a line increase, but then eventually, if they got deteriorated more or did not stabilize and improve, they would then move into decreases, and we would look to decrease as much as we could. The 4th group is the collection strategy. So whilst that was implemented by operations, the collection strategy was done by risk.
So it sounds like this was all very much on a daily basis in terms of at least managing the high-risk customers, and they would be moved into different buckets.
Yeah.
What about the line management for increases? Was that also daily, or was that more of a play to try and get more usage out of the customer on your credit card?
So it was daily in terms of it was looked at. Clearly we weren't looking to approach customers on a daily basis, but it was an ongoing activity, so if customers were, once customers we'd acquired customers, those, any customer we had acquired within the last, however long we'd had them, we would look to see whether what total amount would be willing to lend to them, and then the risk would turn around and say, okay, these are all the customers that we are willing for you to approach, and then we left it to the business to decide when and